So SEMRush just launched a brand new feature that could change the SEO keyword research game forever. And in this video, I'm going to put it to the ultimate test. Keep watching. So what is this new SEMRush feature that I'm so excited about? Well, they now categorize keywords based on search intent. And if this feature works like I pray that it does, it could save hundreds of hours of work. Now, before I go any further, what is search intent? Search intent is simply the mindset that a searcher has when conducting any search on Google or any search engine. And there are 4 broad categories of intent. Number 1, informational, which are search queries at the top of the funnel like, what is SEO? Number 2, investigative or commercial, which are searches towards the middle of the funnel, like best SEO training. Number 3, transactional, which are keywords at the bottom of the funnel, like Gotcha SEO Academy review. And number 4, navigational, which occur when a searcher already knows your brand and is already likely a customer, like Gotcha SEO Academy login. So prior to this new feature, my team and I would need to manually go through our keyword opportunities and categorize them based on intent. And we have a solid process for doing this, but if it can be fully automated, it can save us and you hundreds of hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put SEMrush's new feature to the ultimate test. Here's how it's going to work. I'm going to manually categorize a set of keywords based on intent, and we'll time how long it takes me to do it. Then we'll see how long it takes SEMrush to do it and how accurate it is compared to my manual categorization. Let's do it. So between Google Sheets freezing, my daughter busting into my office, and the dogs barking, it took me roughly 66 minutes to categorize the intent for 6,690 keywords. Now keep in mind that we don't categorize intent for every keyword normally. We usually only assign intent after we've identified solid targets based on keyword difficulty, volume, etc. So now let's compare my time versus SEMrush, and as you might expect, it takes less than 1 minute for SEMrush to analyze and categorize the intent of 6,690 keywords. And as far as time investment, SEMrush is clearly the winner. But what about accuracy? So I'm going to take a segment of 1,000 keywords from SEMrush's intent match feature and see how it compares against my manual selection. Let's take a look. So what I did is I matched SEMrush's selection to the manual selection that we did to see how accurate the new SEMrush feature. And look at all these that SEMrush got right. I mean, it's pretty insane. And then over here at the bottom, these are the ones that it got wrong. Now, let's look at the few that it got right. So we'll look at delete Instagram, which is clearly informational in nature. SEMrush selected informational. SEO audit, title tag, both informational in nature. SEMrush nailed it perfectly. And SEMrush did really well with these informational keywords, like really, really well. So that's a good sign. That's a super good sign. So now let's take a look at the other classifications here. We'll look at investigative. So Blogspot versus WordPress. We have our own classification for these types of keywords. We call them comparison queries. And we just like to kind of separate them out because the way you create content for a comparison query is a little bit different than the type of content you create for, let's say, a review type of query. So we like to separate, but at the end of the day, it's still in the investigative phase towards the kind of transactional phase. So we just, this is really the same. So they did a nice job there. And we'll look at New York SEO, Fort Lauderdale SEO. These are all investigative queries. We believe that it's investigative if it doesn't have a brand name in it. So for example, Fort Lauderdale SEO or New York SEO company, the searcher is not brand aware at this point. So it's still investigative. It's not completely at the bottom of the funnel yet because they're not comparing 2 brands against each other. They're not looking for reviews of a specific brand yet. So they're not all the way down the funnel. So they're still kind of in this investigative phase. They don't really know who they want to work with. They're just trying to see, okay, who are the players with this particular problem that I'm trying to solve. So regardless, SEMrush did a terrific job. Okay, now we'll look at the next classification here, which is navigational. So for our particular process, we like to separate navigational into 2 categories. So we have navigational, your brand, and then navigational, not your brand. So your brand would be Gotcha SEO. That's our brand. Those are our branded terms that we own. Not our brand is exactly what you see here, Google Search Console or TubeBuddy or vidIQ or SEMrush. These Keywords are not great to target typically because you're never going to rank number one, and usually your CTR is really, really bad. So, but there's still some strategy for ranking for these sometimes, but I won't get into that here. But ultimately, SEMrush did a very nice job of classifying these. So I was really impressed by that. But we'll see in a second, it wasn't perfect, but overall they did a really nice job. Now we'll go down here to transactional. Once again, anything with buy attached to it, they did terrific. Really good transactional intent on these, and they were able to classify it really well. So overall, like very, very impressive. I'll give you the percentages and everything like that in a second, but this is just, I wanted to show you kind of at a granular detail of how well this analysis actually did, this new feature as far as classifying search intent. Now let's look at the ones that didn't do super well on. So we'll look at, SEO training is investigative in nature. They selected informational. Some of these are tough, like, even for a manual analysis, some of these can be kind of difficult to know. Now, a couple of them, they're not. Like affordable SEO services, clearly investigative in nature, they selected informational. And then they had a couple here that were clearly transactional too, so buy edu backlinks, or even the most ironic one here is SEMrush trial, which is very transactional in nature, and it actually picked informational. So this one's kind of funny because this is their own brand, but this one is very, very transactional. And looking through here, there's a couple informational ones that it kind of struggled with, like SEO checklist, which is very informational in nature. It thought it was investigative. Keep going down here. Looks like navigational, not your brand. Once again, Spamzilla is navigational. They thought it was investigative. And same with Houston SEO Expert. It picked navigational instead of investigative. And so a couple of these, it's a little off on some of these, but overall, like when you look at the bigger picture, like this is nothing. Like the fact that it got this many right in literally a minute, like, I showed you, it took less than a minute for SEMrush to do this analysis. Like I'm willing to accept a little bit of inaccuracy to have this level of speed, because there's so many things you can do. You can have SEMrush pull this data in knowing that it's going to be, when I'll show you the percentage of how accurate it is in a second, but knowing that it's not going to be 100% accurate, what you can do is you can pull this and then you can just do a real quick manual check on the keywords that you care about the most. So let's say you're targeting, let's say 25 of these core keywords in here. So you can just go through and make sure that it's accurate and then go into the next phase of your keyword research process, which is probably going to be qualifying these keywords further, making sure that your website's actually capable of ranking for them. But the first stage of that is to establish the intent, because when we know the intent, we know exactly how to structure that page. Now, of course, you should look at Google and see how the competitors have structured their pages. But ultimately, when we know the intent, we know exactly how that page needs to be structured. If it's informational, it should probably be a blog post, right? It should be something that's very educational in nature. If it's investigative, we know that it should be something that is more towards the middle of the funnel. The content should reflect that, right? We should be trying to push that searcher to become a lead or a client. That's what we should be trying to do. If it's navigational, we should be trying to help that person navigate our brand, right? So if it's Gotcha SEO Academy login, we need to really have that apparent for them. And ultimately, a lot of those navigational queries that are for our brand specifically are really a golden opportunity to improve experience, because if you see people searching Gotcha SEO Academy login a lot, it means that it's probably not super visible on the site. So that's an indication that we need to improve the customer experience ultimately. And then of course, transactional in nature. If someone's searching buy PBN backlinks, or buy backlinks cheap, or buy do follow backlinks, they're looking for one thing. They want to buy something, right? They are already at the bottom of the funnel. They're ready to buy something. So you need to give them what they're looking for. So either it needs to be a list of vendors that they can buy from, which can be kind of an informational structure, content structure, or you can be that person who is going to deliver what they're looking for. So, but intent is everything. It is the key to structuring your pages the appropriate way. But the fact that SEMrush can categorize it like this quickly and with this accuracy is a complete game changer. So based on my analysis of 1,019 keywords, SEMrush had a 93% success rate, or in other words, it only got 70 inaccurate intent categorizations. I have to admit, this is incredible. And to be honest, there's no reason to perform manual intent categorization from this point forward. So I highly recommend taking advantage of SEMrush's new intent feature. They did not pay me to say this. I just think it's absolutely awesome and will save you hundreds of hours. And if you're wondering what keyword research template I was using in the video, it's from the new Gotcha SEO Academy training and coaching program, and I'll have a link below this video to apply. So if you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.